Germany, this is absolutely amazing information. I mean, you know, we've all been concerned about how Germany is so dependent on Russian oil and natural gas. It's like 40% of the natural gas to the continent and 50%, I believe. Yeah, right. 40% of Europe's gas, 50% of Germany's gas. But the minister of Germany, this is just an amazing piece. It was over on Yahoo News this morning. The headline: Germany prepared to stop buying gas from Russia. Now, spring is coming, right? So this is like the perfect time. But they point out Germany has announced that they are ready should Russia stop exporting gas to the country. Now, that may or may not happen depending on whether Putin wants to go, like, I was going to say go nuclear, but you know, you can confuse that with the weapons. So you know what I'm talking about. If Putin's going to go bat nuts crazy, you know, against Europe itself, you know, against Germany and these other countries that are supporting Zelensky and Ukraine, they could cut off the gas and the oil to Europe, or at least to Germany. And the country's economy minister told Deutschlandfunk Radio that Germany was ready to boost their strategic reserves. He said, quote, "We are prepared for that. I can give the all clear for the current winter and summer. For the next winter, we would have to take further measures," he says. And there is new legislation before the German parliament to ensure that the gas storage is full for next winter. So he said it's about no longer being so closely tied to Russia. This is Mr. Habeck is the finance minister, Robert Habeck, excuse me, H-A-B-E-C-K. In the case Moscow cuts Germany off, Habeck said Berlin could keep, quote, coal-fired plants running in reserve, maybe even keep them running. That answers the question that I was trying to get an answer from, you know, our friend from Beyond Nuclear about, which is yesterday, I believe, that we had him on, which is that, you know, does Germany have alternatives? You know, they've shut down a bunch of nuclear power plants. Can they turn them back on? And his response, Kevin Camps's response, was basically, no, they can't. They're decommissioning them. But they do have coal-fired power plants all around the country that have not been decommissioned, and they can turn them back on. And the German economic minister said that. He said, we have coal-fired power plants in reserve. We can maybe even keep them running. He also said that Germany is building up an oil reserve that would allow the country to get through next winter in case of any supply chains. He said, the more we rely on our energy sources and the more these own energy sources are not dependent on imports, the more confidently we act. In other words, they are moving away from fossil fuels and doing it rapidly, so they will move away from dependence on Russia. Now, here in the United States, we had a law that was put onto the books back in the early 1970s. I believe it was 1975. In fact, it was 1975. It was called the Energy Policy and Conservation Act, and it was a consequence of the Arab oil embargo. And what this law said was that it was illegal for American producers of oil and natural gas to export those raw products. There was a huge loophole, and that was that you can export refined products. So Koch Industries and other companies built refineries down along the Texas Gulf Coast where crude oil could be brought in, including the really dirty crude oil from Canada and from Venezuela. It could be refined there. All the poison goes up into the air and creates Cancer Alley downwind in eastern Texas and throughout Louisiana. And then the result, so externalize or socialize the poison, the harms, the costs, as it were, the externalities, as they're referred to by economists, and internalize the profits. Keep the profits within the company, keep the poison and the pollution in the United States, and ship the diesel or the gasoline or the refined oil out of the United States for a nice fat profit. And we've been doing that since 1975, but we have not been able to export raw crude oil and raw unprocessed natural gas. So up until December 18th, 2015, when President Obama signed into law the, quote, Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2016, H.R. 2029, this was a giant bill because the Republicans were blocking basically every single effort by the Obama administration to pass any individual legislation to accomplish anything, frankly, in the United States. They blocked everything they could for the last couple of years of his presidency, throughout his presidency, but in particular the last couple of years. And this was in 2015. They absolutely blocked this, and so he had to pass what's called omnibus legislation, one giant bill that keeps the government going. And, of course, when that happens, it's really easy for Republicans to sneak in their little stuff. And one of the things that got snuck into that was a repeal of that 1975 law. So that law only lasted from 1975 until 2015, which is, if my math is right, 30 years. And 85, 95, 2015, yeah. No, maybe 40 years. I just can't do math in my head that fast. In any case, it ended in 2015. I'm suggesting that we should bring it back. That it's time. I mean, Ted Cruz is out there complaining that we're still importing oil from Russia. Frankly, I think that's going to stop very soon. I don't think Congress needs to say that they're going to ban imports from Russia of Russian oil and gas, because there's no way for American companies to receive it and make payment. So, whatever's been prepaid is going to come in, and that'll be the end of that. But exporting oil, let's stop the oil barons, including the right-wing billionaires who make their money from oil, and the giant oil companies that are running this scam, pumping American oil and then selling it overseas for a higher price. Because we've got very desirable crude oil. It's called sweet Texas crude. It requires the least amount of refining to turn into gasoline or diesel fuel or motor oil of any of the various types of oil sold on the world market. The high sulfur oil that comes out of Venezuela requires special refineries. It's very expensive to refine. The oil coming from the pipeline, the oil coming from Canada's coal sands, the tar sands, that oil is not even oil really. It's finely granulated, liquefied coal essentially. And it's extremely expensive, difficult, and produces massive amounts of pollution to refine, which is why they don't want to refine it in Canada. They want to pipeline it down to Texas, where the oil barons in America can refine it, give us the pollution, and then make the profit from selling it overseas. Let's change all this. This is the moment, in my opinion, that we really need to change our energy policies in a big way, and I think, frankly, this should be part of it.